Welcome to Mulberry Conversations, a podcast for business leaders and job seekers, where we discuss insights and strategies with leading professionals to help you navigate the ups and downs of today's competitive job market. Today's conversation is brought to you by Mulberry Talent Partners, a full-service recruiting, temporary staffing, and executive search firm offering talent advisory services to individuals and organizations serving the Pacific Northwest and San Francisco Bay Area.
Hello, everyone from Mulberry Talent Partners. My name is Lauren Francis. I'm the CEO of Mulberry Talent Partners. And this is Kristen McConnell. She's our COO. And we are joined by Julie Kearney of Acuity Consultants. Julie has been an HR leader for many years. And we originally met when you were leading one of the organizations that you've led in Portland for many years. And we worked as a staffing partner alongside you and your team. And so we've been doing that for quite a few years. And then what year did you open up Acuity?
Yeah, 2000, right before COVID.
Right before COVID.
Yes.
So Julie is one of our partners we love. On our website, we have an area for our partners that we really value. And Julie is one of those. We have her listed, and we also have lots of partners for candidates as well. So that is a little bit about partners we love. And Julie, we actually brought Julie into Mulberry to help us with some leadership consulting. And it's been incredibly valuable to us and made such a difference that we thought that it would be very valuable to have Julie on our podcast to talk a little bit about what she does and the impact that she has with leaders and organizations. Julie, if you could speak a little bit about your organization, Acuity, and then we can get into the topic of your work.
Yeah, thank you, Lauren, Kristen. I'm excited to be here, and I have loved working with both of you. It's been a lot of fun. So I'm Julie Kearney, and Acuity Consultants is my firm. So I do both leadership consulting and leadership coaching. And so I've had the opportunity to do both with Mulberry, which has been great. And it's just a really nice blending of both for me. And so I've really enjoyed it, and I'm honored to be one of your partners. I spent, 20 plus years in the HR world, and that is where I got to know Lauren and Mulberry. And after about 20 plus years in doing this thing, I decided I wanted to do something where I felt like I was making such a big impact, and that was around leadership coaching and consulting. Because when I thought about what I love to do best was when I was coaching others, or I was specifically working on a specific consulting arrangement. I started, like I said, in 2000, right before COVID, and it was actually a gift because, as we all know, when we went through COVID, nobody knew how to handle this very different thing that was happening in the world, and a lot of people needed coaching. And so that gave me a lot of experience right away. So I have hundreds and hundreds of hours of leadership coaching. I am certified as a Gallup Strengths coach, and I'm also certified with the International Coaching Federation. It's called ICF. It's called the gold standard for leadership coaching, and it is throughout all of the world. And I'm honored to be one of the coaches with ICF. So they have a specific standard that you have to go through. It's almost like I would call a MBA course that you have to go through. There's lots of testing. So that certification took a bit of time, and I'm happy to have that as a part of my credentials.
Will you be talking about the difference between what a leadership consultant is versus a leadership coach?
Yeah. And thanks, Kristen. So first, why don't I talk about coaching? Leadership coaching and coaching overall is really looking forward. So one of the first things that I will do is we'll work together to find out what your coaching goals are. And those are always future focused, right? And then we will work together to refine that overarching coaching goal. And then as we work through our process together, it's usually 6 to 12 months is my coaching arrangements. And I will always hold what that overarching coaching goal is that we've decided, and work to ensure that we're working together to get to that.
when we were talking about speaking with you, you mentioned that 70% of the people you coach and consult or is it coaching? 70% are women? Is it the coaching clients?
Yeah. So if we talk about coaching again, that about 70% of my clients are women. I've done a lot of research on how, the challenges that we face in the work world and the challenges that we face just in the world overall. And so I faced those and I brought those as well from the beginning. One of the reasons I became a coach was because during my 20 plus years in the work world, I moved up really quickly. I went from a director to a VP and then an EVP, all within a couple years. And
Wow.
those big jumps, I was not prepared for those. Because what got me to be a director and successful as a director in HR was not getting me where I needed to be as an executive vice president. And so I had a coach. The company that I worked for was generous enough to give me that opportunity. So I had a coach, and it literally transformed my experience as a leader. We of course went through some assessment processes, and that gave me an idea. So many times we don't know how we show up. So that was reflected back at me. It wasn't easy, but with the help of that coach and some of my own development work, I became a different leader. And so that experience alone made me realize, wow, this is a transformational process. And I want to be a part of that. I want to help leaders, women, men, anyone through that process because it was such a gift to me. And I want to give that gift to others as well.
Now, you have an open mindset and a learning mindset. So that's very, very helpful. And you embrace the process as difficult as it was at times. And you came out of that feeling, just transformed, as you mentioned. Can it work with people that maybe aren't as receptive?
Yeah, it's a great question. So I might have made it sound like it was easy. It was not easy. I think I had very much of a fixed mindset when I went through the process, so much so that I almost gave up.
Oh, okay.
Because the reflection was not positive. And I think that journey that I took, realizing that this feedback is actually a gift, it's not something to punish me with, right? Because I think that's initially how I might have taken it. I think I did take it that way. And so I think that my own experience helped me realize when people are there, because I recognize it. I'm like, oh, I know what that feels like. I know what that looks like. And some of my own development work was around, Carol Dweck's, which amazing work on growth mindset. I had never thought about, oh, maybe it's just how I'm thinking about this. It's not necessarily the situation. How can I transform that? How can I take what this feedback is and learn from it instead of seeing it as a mistake and a failure? And so I think I recognize that. So I think, and there's lots of different areas where people have a growth mindset and then they might have a fixed mindset in this other area, right? That's part of the work that we do together, is to understand what's holding people back from being successful.
Right. And would you say that is it more common for an organization to come to you, Julie, and say, hey, we have a new leader and we're recognizing that there's an opportunity for some coaching here? Or is it more often that a person like yourself, reaches out directly and then gets the buy-in, from their employer after the fact? How does that come together?
Yeah, that's a great question. And one of the things that I so appreciate about all of my clients is that their companies have a growth and developmental mindset. They don't see coaching as, okay, we got to send this person to coaching as this last ditch effort to save them, right? That's not how my clients see coaching. And when I say my clients, I'm saying the people that I coach, as well as what I say their stakeholders are. So to answer your question, Kristen, all of my clients, except for one throughout my coaching, has been sponsored by a company. And whether it's, some companies have a developmental a program. So they are every employee is given $2,500 a year to do whatever they want with their developmental needs. And so perhaps that might be, they might choose coaching as that, or they might go to a conference or whatever. So some of my clients are in that area. A lot of my clients, though, are companies who believe in coaching. They believe that it is transformative. They've had their own experiences, as I have, and they're willing to invest in their leaders in that way. So most of my clients are leaders, whether they are executive leaders or on a senior leadership team, because the company is investing in them and their leadership growth.
Sure.
Are there some situations where people are in a position where they need the coaching, yet they come kicking and screaming to the process?
It's a good question. Part of that is coaching is a chemistry match, right? You know, Lauren, when you and I have worked together, we enjoyed working together. We trusted each other, and that is a part of the relationship. You know, I do want to work with clients who see this as a developmental opportunity, not as a punishment, because that for them working together to accomplish their goals. So as I think about that question, yeah, I might have had some people that weren't sure about the value of coaching, sure. But, you know, within a couple sessions, they're like, I have never thought about some of the things from our discussions, because part of my coaching is about open-ended, and I'm an infinitely curious person. I think humans are fascinating to me. And so I come into coaching trying to understand this person's experience. And but by doing that, I think I ask questions without judgment, with pure curiosity and trying to learn and understand. And by asking some of those questions, we learn together. The client and I learn together as to what perhaps is either standing in their way or what will make them even a better leader.
Both Kristen and I have an open mindset, and at the same time, we have blind spots.
Sure,
And
we all
so
do.
what helped us just with when we were working with you is that it helped to see the blind spots and to recognize what those were, because having an open mindset, oftentimes you just think, I'm out of the woods, I'm good. But it doesn't necessarily mean that you're free of challenge. I mean, we're human, right? And that you mentioned that, and it's important, but it helps us to see parts of ourselves that could be getting in the way.
That's right.
Of the relationship or the company or how we're moving forward. In some cases, stalled.
Yeah, and that's where I think it's so interesting is what is stalling. Where are we stuck, right? That is where I get really interested. So yeah, I think we all have fixed mindsets. I think in some ways it's something that I think I will work on my entire life. Like, where am I in a fixed mindset and where am I now? As I said, I'm a certified as leadership coach with the ICF, and I'm also working on my certification for team coaching, which is the next, I think, a different level of coaching, because you're not just coaching the one-on-one. You're now coaching an entire group of people who are trying to accomplish a certain goal, and we all have our behaviors that we're showing up with, right? It's so infinitely more complicated. And so that is also something that I do as well, is team coaching. And there are things like 360 assessments and Clifton Strengths assessments, which help, right? So we can understand each other while we're working together in a team, because we all show up, we're all unique, and we're going to show up differently. And we're going to show up differently when things are working well and when things are very stressful. And so things start getting in the way. And as a team coach, we start dissecting and learning about that and how to work together better.
We worked with a company, or was introduced to a company a few years ago, and they engage with organizations, and they have an offering for their employees to have counseling. It's related to work. It's very similar because there is a crossover, obviously, between personal and professional, and they do align in many ways. And so I was thinking about in a way, it's like having a coach coach for the employees. Okay, that's what it is. Aren't there roles within organizations where they actually have a employed coach?
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
absolutely. My cohort that I'm working with for my ICF certification, two of the coaches are from Amazon.
Okay.
When I certified as individual coaching, there were coaches from Nike. So yes.
When did the idea of coaching actually start to take root in our society, within organizations? Because some people see it as this new thing, but it's not so new.
Yeah.
Or yeah.
You're right, Lauren. It isn't so new. I think it started gaining steam about 20 years ago.
Okay.
But prior to that, it was not very common. I think part of it is as we learned about leadership and other dynamics, we realized there are people that understand this and need to professionalize what this looks like. I mean, ICF's been around for 50 odd years, but yes, you're right. Over the last 20 years, it's really gained steam. So it's not new.
That makes sense. With the team coaching versus the one-on-one coaching, is it the same number of sessions? Is it a different model? Like, how does that typically play out?
Yeah, that's a great question. So there's some things that are very similar about team coaching and individual coaching. First of all, I almost always use an assessment, right? There's a individual one-on-one assessment, there's team assessment. So I do those because that gives me data. It gives the team data. I'm a data person. I love data. I'm a little bit of a geek about that. And so that gives me a lot of information, which I can then use to support, whether it's one-on-one or team coaching. So that is very similar. So when I meet with an individual, we come together on what the overarching coaching goals are, right? We talked about that. We do the same with team coaching. So we're trying to understand what is the goal, what the team is trying to achieve, and how are we behaving with each other? We call them team agreements. How are we behaving with each other? Because as you know, most often it's not the work that gets in the way. The work is sometimes easier than the behaviors. Our behaviors oftentimes get in our way. And so understanding how to navigate that as a team is one of the first steps that we take. Both of my engagements are usually 6 to 12 months.
Got it.
If we do less than 6 months, it feels like I'm just scratching the surface. 6 is always good, but it usually runs to around 12, depending. And that's been consistent for me and my clients. So.
And when do you get the call? Have the wheels, are they falling off the bus? Or do we have a very forward-thinking leader that says, hey, we know we have this new developing leader, emerging leader in our organization? Like, when do you typically get that call in?
Yeah. So oftentimes I do get the call when someone is promoted into a role, just like I was from a director. Now they're a senior director and they need to up level. So that's oftentimes when I get the call. There's times where a new leader comes into an organization. And so that's sometimes when I'm brought in because part of it is, it's hard to adjust to a new culture, right? And there's some work that can be done there to acclimate them quickly to the culture, particularly with clients that I know well. Sure. On team coaching, I never get brought in when the team is doing great. I mean, and why would I, right? But I'm being brought in as a team coach because something is not working, right? And to me, that's where I get my juice from. So what's not working? Why is it not working? What's standing in our way? What would be different? How could it be different if we change things? And that's oftentimes how we approach each other as the team. So when I get called in for team coaching, I know that things are going to be rough. And that is for me to see a team going from where they're not working together, they're doing the side eyes and mental, oftentimes eye rolls, right? To actually, engaging and working and wanting to work together. See, that for me is why I do what I do, to see that happen.
Definitely. Hats off to those leaders that know as they're helping to develop their employees and move them into those new roles to be forward thinking on that and not wait and see how it goes, but instead just make sure that they're really, really set up for success. And I'd be curious to know if there's been any commonality that you have found with, is it usually people that have maybe gone through this themselves that can recognize the value of that, or it does, like, how does that come to be?
I love that question. It's very interesting and curious. The clients that I'm working with is they understand the value of coaching, whether it's because they have had it themselves, or they have a very smart, emotionally intelligent leader, whether it's the CEO or the chief people officer or an amazing learning and development leader. Oftentimes it's even somebody a senior operations person who's had coaching and comes into an organization and saying, okay, we need to bring coaching in because this is something that our organization needs. So some of it is their own experience, but oftentimes it is because they realize, you read almost any Harvard Business Review about leadership coaching and the transformative effects of it. And so people are realizing that, and so they fund it.
That's great.
You asked a really great question earlier about consulting, and I haven't answered that yet. So my consulting business, which is different than the coaching, is I'm literally wearing a consultant hat. So I am taking all of the experience that I had as a senior executive and a senior people leader, and I'm taking all of that experience and applying it to clients who need help. So things like talent management. You've probably heard of 9-box or a vitality curve. It's the same thing. It's about taking what is a process. Performance management can be that. It could be a talent management process that helps develop people, creating succession planning, creating growth and development plans. So my leadership consulting is all around development, but it's connected to my experience that I had before, which is, leading a team.
That makes sense.
It's fascinating. It really is.
Mm-hmm.
I've learned so much. Is there anything else you want to share about your practice or anything else that you think people need to know, should know?
Yeah. So a couple things. I became a Gallup Strengths coach because I was introduced to strengths while I was a leader of people. And why I chose that is because I believe we all are unique and we all bring gifts to the table. And oftentimes those gifts, I'll use an example. I'm a high achiever in the Gallup Strengths. Achiever is one of my top 5. And I was known for getting stuff done, getting it done quickly, taking on a lot, having lots of energy, executing well, all of that. Well, there's a flip side to it. Sometimes work became more important than people. Sometimes I pushed my team too hard. Sometimes I didn't take a break. And so I was burnt a lot of the time. So what I love about strengths is what we bring, which is so powerful, and recognizing that each one comes with a little bit of its own challenge. And once you understand that, I was able to say, okay, work is not more important than people. I do really love people. So I'm reflecting something that is not really true to me. How can I fix that? How can I think about it differently? How can I use some of my other strengths to send the achiever into the backseat for a little while so I can take care of myself and others while we're working together. So I instinctively believe in strengths and that we all truly want to do a great job. We're whole, resourceful people, and we're creative. And part of that is unpacking what that is that's holding us down from being that, from showing up that way.
Wow, I love what you just said. One of the things I love about working with you too is that you have a very neutral style, meaning it's not aggressive, it's not judgmental. You feel what it is, you feel seen. My behavior or my attitude towards something is not judged, and it's, I don't know, it's handled in a way where it helps me see what I am not seeing And I then can reflect and think about it. But that I think one of the keys to your coaching success from my point of view, and looks like Kristen agrees as well, because it keeps the conversation going and alive, and it helps us be better, want to improve. It was so funny when we were having a session for the prep session, we were like, this is a hard lesson. And we were like, I'm tired of learning these lessons. But it was just so funny because it's true. It's sort of like, oh, here we go again.
Yeah.
I thought I was at the finish line.
You thought you were fixed.
Yeah, fully cooked is what I call it. I'm not fully cooked, it turns out.
Yeah, we're never fully cooked. Thank you, Lauren. That was very sweet. And I do feel the same. And I feel this way actually for all my clients, because there is something amazing. There's amazing things about you, Lauren. There's amazing things about you, Kristen. And that's part of, having those come to the surface rather than some other things that we would like me putting work before people. I didn't want to do that. And I didn't realize that I was. And once I realized it, I was able to do something different about it.
Yeah, that's great. Julie, thank you so much for joining us today. This has been a fascinating conversation.
Oh, well, thank you.
And I know it will have an impact on those that listen. We really appreciate your time, and we also appreciate the work you do with us.
Yes.
I'm very grateful.
My honor. I'm lucky to work with both of you. It's been great.
And we're happy to introduce, if for anyone listening, happy to make the connection to Julie, I think it can be a benefit to your organization.
Yeah, very
I
good.
love that.
All right.
Thank you both.
Okay. All right.
Take care.
Take care.
Thank you for joining us. To dive deeper into today's conversations, please visit us at mulberrytalent.com, where you can find additional resources and conversations, learn more about Mulberry, and see our complete service offerings in specialty areas including human resources, administrative office, finance, accounting, payroll, and operations. And don't forget to subscribe to Mulberry Conversations on YouTube or your favorite podcast platform.